On the edge of real and cyberspace, there's one place you can go, and you found it. Welcome to Knightwise.com, the one and only podcast with hacks, tips, and tweaks for cross-platform geeks. Whether you're a Windows, Linux, iOS, OS X, Android, or Sun Solaris user, we have the stuff you need to tune tech into your way of life and let that technology work for you. My name's Knightwise. I'll be your host today on KW504 Sliders Academy, Part 1. For more information and for the show notes, everything that we talk about, you can go over to the website www.knightwise.com. That's knightwise.com, where you will find the links to everything we talk about. And the Knightwise.com media feed. Subscribe to this feed and get all of these episodes and our audio podcasts delivered to your favorite podcatcher, automatically letting technology work for you. If you want to get in touch with us, you can. Knightwise.com/Twitter if you want to follow us on Twitter, Knightwise.com/Facebook if you want to follow us on Facebook, and Knightwise.com/Google Plus if you want to follow us on Google Plus. Plenty of social platforms to go to. Now, welcome to KW504 Sliders Academy Part 1, or Lesson 1. School's in. Summer holidays are over and it's time to learn stuff. What is Sliders Academy? Well, I did a lot of articles about sliding when you move from one operating system to the other operating system, and I thought, there are some people for whom this is all kind of new. So I thought, there are going to be some people out there that don't know what sliding is, and then they probably don't know what Knightwise.com is, and perhaps they know what Knightwise.com is, but they don't know what sliding is. So I'll explain the two. Knightwise.com is a website that is dedicated to using technology to work for you, and that doesn't really care about what operating system you are on. We try to find hacks, tips, and tweaks, as I said in the intro, for people who are on different operating systems and who like to be free of an operating system, so they can just do their computing and their stuff on whatever operating system they're using and on whatever device that they're using. Finding cross-platform solutions for modern day and everyday technological challenges, that's what we do. And then I've explained what a slider is. A slider is somebody who is not a fanboy and who doesn't like one specific OS and thinks that all the rest is crap. A slider says, I am the center of my technological lifestyle and all the devices are mine. I can just go from iOS to Android to Linux to OS X to Windows 8 to Windows Mobile to Windows RT. That's all kind of the same stuff, but you know what I mean. And they can just do what they want. It does require some challenges, and of course you need some tricks up your sleeve to make that happen. Well, today I wanted to start with Sliders Academy. I'm going to give you a basic workout or a basic tutorial on how to get your sliders life built up. So, today is lesson 1. We start with a central system. We start with one system that will be the heart of your sliders world and where you can connect to from different systems on different operating systems to do the stuff that you need. Kind of think of it as the core of your sliders existence. From this lesson on, we're going to pan out, starting with the central system, to connecting to that central system from other systems and other platforms, and then using the web to make your sliders life complete. If you have any questions or suggestions for show topics, the feedback section below this article is of course the place where you want to go, or you can send it to feedback@knightwise.com. Time for lesson 1. What are we going to do today? Well, quite simple. We are going to record how to install your central system. We're going to record how to install Ubuntu, how to get started with a Linux distribution. Now you can do this on your laptop or your desktop. You can do this on a server that you have dedicated in the house, or you can do this on a virtual machine. It doesn't really matter. We're just going to start out from here and we are going to branch out from this lesson. So, it's time to sit up straight and pay attention, because Sliders Academy, which is like Jedi Academy but without lightsabers, at least in this lesson, Sliders Academy is about to get started. Pay attention, because here we go. So, welcome to Sliders Academy. Time to set up your central system. We are going to set up a central Linux system that can serve as a hub
for your entire slider lifestyle. It will be kind of like your personal cloud where you can connect to from anywhere and use all of your favorite devices and operating systems no matter where you are to get stuff done. To get started, we of course first need to get the Linux distribution of choice. And it's going to be Ubuntu. Now, I say Ubuntu, but it doesn't have to be Ubuntu. But you can choose to go for a Debian system. That's just because it's easier to install extra packages. And, just because we kind of like working with Debian packages because it's easier to show you. Now, you just go to ubuntu.com and choose download. Now you can download the Ubuntu desktop or server or cloud infrastructure. We'll do the desktop. Now remember, you can install the Ubuntu desktop on your laptop as a dual boot or as a single boot. You can install it on a spare machine that you have lying around. You can even install it into a virtual machine. I'm going to show you how to download the Ubuntu ISO, and I'm going to show you how to get it on a bootable USB stick so you can install it on whatever device you want to use. When we go to the download section, we are presented by two choices. We can go for Ubuntu 12.10 or 12.4 LTS. 12.4 LTS means it's a long-term support release. It's a more stable version of Ubuntu that doesn't have all the latest hickety-doo-dahs that 12.10 has, but it's supported for 5 years. So I always tend to go on my workstations with a 12.10 because it has all the new features. But when it comes to my central systems and the things that really count, I go for a 12.04. So we're going to go for a 12.04 too, because there's not that much of a difference between 12.04 and 12.10. We got two versions to choose from, 32 or 64. Depending on your chip architecture, that sounds like an expensive word, you can choose whatever you want to choose. Now, if you have a pretty recent machine or are running a virtual machine on a pretty recent machine, the chances are good that you can run the 64-bit version. If you have more than 4 gigabytes of memory, just choose the 64-bit version. All you need to do is click the Get Ubuntu button and then they make you pay. No, they don't make you pay. They let you pay if you want to. If you want to contribute to the Ubuntu project, you can just, chuck them some dough, but you don't have to. You can just say, no, take me to the download. Click on Take Me to the Download and the download will commence in the background. Here you see it's about 694 meg because the ISO is so big it doesn't fit on a live CD anymore. So please have a USB stick handy, a thumb drive of at least 2 gigabytes. I presume 4, but you can just do it with 2. Meanwhile, while that's downloading in the background, I'm going to show you a tool to make a bootable USB drive out of that. There are plenty of tools out there. If you already have a Ubuntu system, you can just use the startup disk creator. And if you are on Windows or the Mac, you can do it differently. You just look for UNetBootin. UNetBootin is a cute little application, and I always write it wrong, so that's why I always spell it wrong. That's why I always Google it. Just go to unetbootin.sourceforge.net, and there you'll see that this is an application that you can install on Windows, on Linux, and on OS X. Now the cool thing about UNetBootin is that it will download and install anything, any version for you if you want to. So if you have taken the first steps that we did here, where you downloaded the ISO, you don't really need to. You can just download UNetBootin and make the bootable USB drive like that. So it will let you choose which version of Ubuntu you want, or you can choose the disk image here and browse to the ISO file that you are currently downloading. This is like Kermit the Frog, it just goes into the screen, yay, it goes out of the screen. But, I'll keep it running in the background. It's really fast, by the way. So download UNetBootin either on your Windows machine, on your Linux machine. You don't have to because you might have Startup Disk Creator, or on OS X. And believe me, I have seen the alternatives of how you can make bootable bootable thumb drives on OS X. You don't want to do that. You want to use UNetBootin. So download UNetBootin, start it up, select the ISO that you just downloaded, and get ready to rock and roll. Once you've booted your system with your bootable thumb drive, you'll be presented by this screen. It will give you the option to either try Ubuntu or install Ubuntu. The great thing about having a live thumb drive like this is that you actually have a portable operating system with you that you can use everywhere. Now, to show you how this works, I'll actually go for that try Ubuntu option first. You'll actually see that on the thumb drive that we just built with UNetbooten, there is a complete portable version of Ubuntu that you can just use at your leisure. It's a little bit on the slow side on my system here, but just give it a couple of seconds. There you go. As you can see, a full working Linux Ubuntu Linux desktop with the nice Unity interface that some people hate and some people like, and all of the applications that you want to have. So you can just type whatever you want here, Firefox, and you can just use that operating system no matter where you are. So keeping this handy is always cool. If you go to your aunt's or your uncle's place that have that dreadful Windows XP Service Pack 1 machine, you can just plop in your little thumb drive here and boot it up and boot it into your own personal operating system. It's super safe and you can carry it around with you anywhere, and it's cool. I mean, it works. There you go. Those are the posts of the day and stuff like that. So, but that's not what we're going to show you today. We're also going to show you how to install it. This is, by the way, a great way to see if everything in your system works. See if your audio card is detected before you install Ubuntu. After you fiddle around with it a little bit, you can go for the installer and choose Install Ubuntu. This will launch the installer, and what we're going to show you today is how to install Ubuntu, how to partition your drive correctly, and we're also going to show you some nice sliders tricks. This machine isn't really fast. I should have given it a little bit more memory. I'm in a virtual machine and I've given it a gigabyte of memory. If you're doing this in a VM, give your Ubuntu install about 2 to 4 gigabytes of memory if you have it to spare. Always nice. Here, I'm going to put the language on English, choose continue, and it'll ask you, are you connected to the internet? Are you plugged into a power source? And do you at least have 4.5 gigabytes available? Now, if you're running this on an EEE PC, kind of hard stuff, but we talked about that in a previous episode. What you want to check off is download updates while installing and install third-party software. So you have the MP3 and stuff like that all installed by default. Just hit continue and the installer will start. You'll also have the updates downloaded while installing. Now you can choose to have Ubuntu partition the drive for you, and if you have a different operating system already present on the drive, it will suggest to install it side by side. But because this drive is completely empty, it will say, want me to delete everything and just install myself. No, we are going to do something else because we're going to manually partition the drive. Just hit continue here, and this is the drive that I'm installing it on. The first thing I need to do, if it's an empty drive, is choose new partition table. Hit continue, because it says, have you backed up everything, and everything on the drive is going to be removed. And then you'll see that I have about 27 gigabytes of free space. Now we're going to build 3 partitions here. A system partition with all of your applications and your system, a data partition with all of your data, and a swap partition as a temporary swap memory on the drive. We're going to start out with the root partition or the system partition. Add a partition, primary, and I'm going to give it about, I would give your system partition between 8 and 10 gigabytes. So give it 8 gigabytes here. It's at the beginning of the drive and it's formatted ext4. I'm going to assign the / or root partition to it, which means that the system and the applications will be installed here. Click OK. As you can see, the first part of my drive is now being used. Next up, we're going to do a little trick to make it easy for you. We're going to construct the swap partition. This is what your computer uses if it doesn't have enough memory. It actually will use the hard drive as spare memory. If you have an SSD drive, solid state drive, you might not want to do this because this can wear out your solid state drive. And if you have an SSD drive, the chances are pretty good that you have more than 4 gigabytes of RAM, and Ubuntu will run just fine. Now, the swap partition is going to be a little trick. We are going to assign it the double amount of memory that you have. So for example, if you have 1 gigabyte of memory, you'll assign it a 2 gigabyte swap drive. If you have 4 gigabytes of memory, the swap drive will be 8 gigabytes. So here I've only assigned 1 gigabyte, so I'm going to go for 2 gigabytes. 2000. And I'm going to put it at the end of the drive. Now, make sure that you do this, and as a file system, you'll choose swap area. Just click OK. And what this has done is put the system at the beginning of your drive and the swap nicely at the end, and now you have whatever is left. This has to be the biggest chunk for your personal data. So we just add a partition, leave everything as it is, and choose home as the mounting point. This is where Ubuntu will store all of your files and your settings. It's like the documents and settings in Windows and like the user folder in Mac. And the great thing about this setup, about splitting it up in 3 parts, is that you can reinstall your system while still keeping all of your data and your settings should you want to. So really nice. It's going to ask you where to put the bootloader, and I mostly put that, just on the drive here. I take the default value and I click Install Now. The drive's going to be partitioned, and I'm going to get some questions. Where do I live? I live pretty close to Brussels. That's okay. What's my keyboard? Because I'm doing this on in a virtual machine, I'm going to have to choose my Mac keyboard. So just choose whatever keyboard works for you. For me, it's a little trick. Here in Belgium, in the Flemish part of Belgium, we have AZERTY keyboards. So I have to choose French Macintosh in order for let it work on my Mac. But just choose your keyboard settings and you can test if it's correct here. It's going to ask you for your name. I'm going to use it test user. Going to give it a name. Slider School Machine. That's a bit long, but it's okay. A password. Choose a strong password. I mean, put some capitals, underscores, uppercase, lowercase numbers in. And you can choose to either log in automatically, which I wouldn't advise that you do, and always require a password to log in. If you want to encrypt your home folder, you can. That means that if your computer gets stolen, if people boot up your computer with a hacking tool or anything, they're not going to be able to read your data. But if your computer crashes, it's going to be a little bit harder to find your data again or recover your data. So I'm just going to leave this one open here and choose continue. And now the installation will start. So we'll just let it run in the background. And in the meantime, you can just, continue to use this system, which is so wicked. You can just, click on Firefox and surf the web or check out some of the applications while it installs. And we'll be back when the install is complete. After the installation is complete, it's pretty simple. You've goofed off plenty, so it's time to restart your system and boot into your live CD. So now, don't forget, after you press restart and your system powers down, remove your USB stick and let the system boot in the Ubuntu install that you just did. So, after our first boot up of our recently installed machine, it's time to log in for the first time. So just enter your password and you'll be presented by the user interface of your choice, or in this case by the default user interface, which is Unity. And a lot of people like Unity and a lot of people don't like Unity. So you might want to do something about that, and we will a little bit later on, because Unity is pretty resource heavy. And the great thing about Linux is that you can install different graphical desktops, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So you can choose whatever graphical desktop you want to use. But before we do that, we first have to make sure that we have all of the latest updates and upgrades to our operating system to bring it completely up to date. So we open up a terminal, and all we need to do is type sudo apt-get updates and sudo apt-get upgrade / yes. Hit enter. Enter your root password. And there you go. It will download and fetch all of the updates and the upgrades to your systems, that are required. I would, we'll schedule how to do this a little bit later on in one of the later lessons, but this is something that you should always do once you've installed a system. Make sure that you have the most recent security and application patches, so you're just safe, secure, and up to date. It will take a while for it to download everything. It will check all the packages and will ask you if you want to install all of these updates. So you can just hit yes and wait for it to complete. With all the updates installed, it's time to customize our system a little bit more, because Unity is great, but it might not really help you all of the times, and you might want to have some choices. So we are going to install 2 extra graphical user interfaces that you can choose from when you're working with your machine. And in a later chapter, this will also become apparent why we're going to do this. So to install 2 new graphical desktops on your system, it's pretty easy. Sudo apt get install Ubuntu desktop for XFCE and Ubuntu desktop for LXDE. Let's see, Ubuntu there, right? Okay. So if you hit enter now, you will be asked if you want to install the 2 graphical user interfaces additional to the one you use. So you just type yes, enter, and let it install. After the installation is complete, you can even test them out right away. So all you need to do is log out of your session here. Log out. And this is an option that you also have when you are just freshly booting up, of course. You'll be presented with your login screen again, but here, when you click on the little icon, you can choose different operating systems, different graphical interfaces for you to work with. So we're going to choose Ubuntu to get started with here. Just enter your password. And you'll be presented by a completely different graphical interface. So if you don't like Unity, you can actually choose which one you want to use. It takes a while to boot up at the first time. And Ubuntu is cool because it kind of reminds me of a Mac, because your classic menu bars here up top, and down here you'll even have a little launch bar that you can use to launch your different applications, like for example your terminal or your file browser or whatever you would like to use. We can log out here, and then I'll show you the other graphical interface that you've installed. It's complaining here that you need to reboot your system to do that, and after doing a big system upgrade and update, like we did in the beginning, it is advised to do a system reboot. So we're going to choose, we did Ubuntu, and now we're going to go for Ubuntu. There we go. Just enter your password here. And Ubuntu is a little bit more like Windows, I think. It reminds me of Windows XP. You got a button here on all of your applications and your menu items. So depending on where you're coming from, if you're coming from a Mac, you might want to have it more Macishly. If you come from the Windows side, you want to have it more Windowsy, if that's the word. So no matter what, you can choose any graphical interface that you've installed. That's it for this lesson of Sliders Academy. Next time, we are going to see how we can remotely connect to this system from anywhere.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this lesson of Sliders Academy, and I hope you enjoyed this video episode of Knightwise.com. It's only the beginning, of course. It's the basics, the very basics, but we're going to take it small steps at a time, because otherwise these episodes are going to be too long and you're going to probably fall asleep or goof off during class, and we don't want that. We want you to pay attention. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any feedback or questions, feedback@knightwise.com, or just use the comments below if you are on the knightwise.com website of this article, or you can just, hit us up on Twitter or Google Plus or Facebook. I mentioned the links in the beginning of the episode. We will see you in the next chapter of Sliders Academy, where we are going to connect to our central machine from all the different platforms that are out there. We're going to see how we can make you connect to your central Linux system from another Linux system, from a Mac, from Windows, from iOS, from Android, and from the moon. Yeah, we're going to try to have you connect to your central system from the moon. That was a real great thing to say. Now I have to get a rocket, and I have to go to the moon, I have to take my camera to the moon, and I don't have shoes for the moon. So we'll see about the moon part, okay? So just make sure you got chapter 1 under your belt, know your lessons. There's not going to be a test. Stuff like that. Now you can go goof off. Okay, play with your central system. We'll see you on the next episode of Sliders Academy. Till then, let technology work for you, not the other way around. My name's Knightwise. Happy computing.